Okay. Are we live? And can you hear me? That's the most important thing. I'm coming to you from inside my Airbnb today because it is getting very cold and windy outside, and it was really messing with the equipment. And I was just no reason to be out there in the dark when it's 10 o'clock at night. Our Airbnb faces a hotel, the Cassie Hotel, which is full of internally displaced people right now. And so because of that, if I stand out there with that light on, I could potentially be keeping people awake over there at the hotel, and I don't want to do that. This is later than I normally come on, but I wanted to get this done tonight. Had a real problem. Oh man, what a day this has been. I had a lot of trouble with the CBN feed to the point that it just went and just died. And so I'm going to have to redo that one at some point. Maybe not tonight. It's late. Plug. I had this one. Can you give me that one, please? So, thank you for being here, folks. Wanted to give you a quick update. There's some breaking news that I just literally found out about seconds ago, and that is that Israel has agreed to extend the ceasefire up to 10 days for the agreed upon 10 hostages given up per day. That would be, so from 4 to 10 days, so that's 6 more days at 10 hostages a day. It'd be 60 more hostages to get out. Obviously, getting the hostages out is super important, but Israel is being very clear. I mean, they keep putting messages out. The prime minister will put out messages that are just this long, just a whole press release for like a one sentence message from the prime minister, and that is, we are not going to stop. This is going to, we're going to continue this until we dismantle Hamas. And so just wanted to point out also that I'm not in West Virginia. I confused a lot of people because I uploaded a video when I was in a big hurry today trying to get my daughter to the Jordanian border, which is whole nother fiasco. But I uploaded that because I wanted to upload the story. I told the story about when this guy tried to rob me in the Congo, and I had this crazy trip to the Congo one time, and it's just a fun story. And so I thought I'd upload that as a fun video for a Sunday. It's in a file that I keep of stories like that I can upload just whenever I want to put some content up, and I don't have time to do it to make some. And so everybody thought, because I said at the beginning of that video that I was in West Virginia for a couple of weeks taking some time on vacation, everybody thought I just like poof disappeared from Jerusalem and went to West Virginia. And then yeah, that's what happened there. I'm not in West Virginia. I'm here in Jerusalem and plan to stay through mid-December. Hazel has a question. Did you find out who the hostage was that they airlifted from the border? Yes, it was an 84-year-old, I believe, is what I saw, that was taken directly to the hospital. So they have, let me just run down the update for you. There have been a total of 40 Israelis in 3 batches that have been released so far. Now, we had an extra one released today because he was Israeli Russian and dual citizenship, Russian Israeli, and Vladimir Putin apparently just made a phone call like that, and Hamas let him go. They are certainly, let's just say they respect Vladimir Putin, Hamas does, more than they respect Joe Biden, without a doubt. And we just today got the first American hostage back, that little 4-year-old Abigail, who just had her birthday. And so that's a great thing. We finally got an American back, but there's more Americans that are being held. And one other weird thing that happened today with the hostage release, they weren't all released into Egypt like they have been the last 2 days, where they take them down, they turn them into the Red Cross in southern Gaza, and they carry them across into Egypt, and then they bring them back into Israel that way. Some of the hostages, like I want to say, well, most of them, all but 4 of the hostages today were turned in to the IDF directly in northern Gaza at the northern border. And that's very strange, probably very dangerous, but it actually shows that I was wrong when I said that I didn't believe that they would find any hostages in northern Gaza, because who would be stupid enough to keep hostages in northern Gaza when, you know, they know they're going to lose northern Gaza and it's going to get, you know, completely taken over. But apparently some of those hostages were still stuck in northern Gaza and they couldn't get them out to the south, so they gave them up to the north. And some of those guys, of course, they were being held down in the tunnels, and some of those tunnels are very, very deep. So it's possible that they escaped the bombing. They did not give up the 10-month-old, as far as I know. But they did give up a bunch of kids today. And Israel gave up a bunch of criminals today. On the other side, somebody's asking what happened to the other live on CBN. The whole thing just fell apart. It's been a really, really bad day for a lot of reasons, but specifically with technology, and the technology was just not cooperating today. And so it just died in the middle of the upload, in the middle of the feed. And so I'm going to have to go back and redo that. Heard a report on the radio yesterday that Iran is 12 days from having weapons-grade plutonium. They've been saying stuff like that for a long time. Could I get some more of this? Or something, that, anything. They've been saying that about Iran, and I don't think anybody really knows for sure how much Iran has, what they have and what they don't have. But if they do know for sure, it's not good. I'm sure that Iran is getting closer all the time. Now, and that brings up another point. Like, is Israel going to take the fight directly to Iran? I mean, that's who they're fighting with. This is a proxy war between Israel and Hamas. It's a proxy war between Israel and Hezbollah, and Israel and Yemen, and Israel and the rebels, or the Shiite militia groups in Iraq and Syria. All of those are proxies for Iran. And so I've often wondered, when is Israel just going to get tired of messing with the proxies and just go direct to Iran? Iran has a very large military, but they're not expeditionary. And that's probably the reason why Israel hasn't gone after them, because Israel is not expeditionary in their military either. Israel and Iran probably have pretty close to the same number of troops right now that are active, but that requires, on Israel's part, shutting down their economy because everybody's in the army. That's not the case in Iran, but the two can't quite get at each other directly because they're separated by Jordan and Iraq. Now, Israel can and has bombed into Iran from time to time, and so could the United States if we wanted to. The U.S. does have an expeditionary military, but I doubt it's going to be come down to a fight between Joe Biden's U.S. military and the Iranians. He's trying to be friends with the Iranians. He thinks they're nice, reasonable people. So I wouldn't hold my breath on the U.S. going to war with Iran. But if they get a nuclear weapon, Israel has said they will not allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon, and they will do whatever it takes to stop them. So we'll see. What do I think about Hassan, son of Hamas founder? Would you interview him? Of course I would interview him. I would love to. I have read some of his book. I watched a documentary about him, and I've seen a lot of his comments about this war. And I would love to talk to him. If you happen to have his phone number, send it to me, and I'll definitely give him a call. I wanted to show you, clear one other thing up. We raised a whole bunch of money the other day for Anat, the older woman who is on a fixed income. She owns this small boutique hotel with 7 rooms in Tiberias, and she was almost in tears when we showed up to rent one room for one night, because she said she's had no tourists at all since the war started, and just a few Israelis that show up, but they get a steep discount, sort of by definition. So you guys, I just sort of off the cuff said, well, tell you what, if we raise some money on this podcast today, we'll give it to Anat and try to bless her. And you guys raised $1,600 in 45 minutes. And so I wanted to let Anat, we wanted to give that to Anat. We tried to get the cash out. We couldn't get all that much cash out of, I mean, that's a lot of cash to get out at one time. But so we were trying to figure something out. And then we figured out the next day that Anat wasn't going to come in because it was Shabbat and she was visiting her mother at the hospital. And so we tried to figure out what to do. How do we get the money to her that everybody just raised? And so what we did is we called her on the phone and told her what we were going to do. And I want to show you that call right now so that you can see how that went. Okay, so here goes. It's about 6 minutes long. I'm still here. I'm just going to shut up and not comment, and you can listen to what happened. So we stayed at this hotel last night, and it's one of the few in Tiberias that's not $600 a night that's left, because there are a lot of refugees that are staying here in around the Sea of Galilee. And this hotel was run by a nice little lady named Anat. And she and her husband are, I think it was her husband, the guy that was in there, are basically, this is their income. And she was telling me how difficult it is for them right now because there are no tourists. This is their high season. So they make the majority of their money for the entire year from this time of the year. And right now there's nobody. So they're having a really hard time. So last night on the podcast, I mentioned that, and I said, you know, hey, if you guys want to donate money, we'll give it to Anat. Whatever we raise on the podcast or in the broadcast last night, we will give to this lady to try to help offset her losses. And so that's what we're going to do. We raised about $1,600, and that's enough to rent her entire hotel out for 2 nights. So the problem is, today is Shabbat, and she's not going to be here today. She is visiting her mother, who is sick with pneumonia in the hospital. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call her, and I'm going to surprise her with the news that we want to rent her entire hotel, and then we'll see how we can work this out as best we can. So let's see if this works here. There we go.
Hi, Charles. Yes.
Hello, Anat. I'm sorry to bother you again when you're with your mother.
That's okay. It's okay.
So I just wanted to explain that I have a show on YouTube, and last night I was doing my news broadcast, like I mentioned to you on the patio here, and the people on my show were asking how they could help people in Israel, and so one of the things that they decided to do was they want to help you get through this difficult time, and so we want to rent your entire hotel for a couple of nights.
Okay. Okay.
But I need to figure out how to do that. Can I do it? I could do it through Airbnb here. I see your page on Airbnb, but it would probably be less expensive if we found a way to do that directly with you. Do you have your own website or something?
Look, directly, it's good for you and good for me. Because if you make from Airbnb, you pay, how you say in English?
Right. I know that I have to pay fees and taxes and everything.
Yes,
But
yes.
so
And
how do I
if
pay directly to you?
you call me and I make the reservation.
Oh,
I
well,
make the reservation and I have paper. I can send you by the WhatsApp if you want.
PayPal.
No, a paper. I have, if you, for example, if you say I want next week, for example, 1-2 nights, and I say, okay, I will write your name or another name that you want, or your company, what you want, I will write.
Okay.
And I have special paper, and I have a computer, of course. I keep the rules for you.
Okay.
In the computer, and as I write, I'm working very, very errands. Yes, you say.
Okay.
Everything I write. You see, you say you saw me yesterday. I'm low woman. You say you know what
Yes. So it doesn't really matter what the dates are because we're not actually going to stay. They just want to help you with your, difficult time here.
Thank you. When you want, which date?
Like I say, it doesn't matter what dates. We're not actually going to be here, so you can rent them out to someone else also. But we just wanted to give you some help. So if you will send me the link, then I can transfer the funds to you that way, and you can send me a receipt via email.
Okay. Can you confirm me by to the WhatsApp?
Yes, I can.
Easy for me?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
I'll confirm with you
okay.
via WhatsApp. And this is from people all around the world. There are people in South Africa and Korea and Scotland and the United States and everywhere.
Thank you.
And they all love,
Thank you very much.
they
Thank
love
you.
Israel and they want to help. So this is,
Thank you, Charles. Thank you very much. I'm very pleased. And if you confirm me by the WhatsApp, and I send you link, a picture of our place.
Okay.
Okay. And I give this special price. We are not, I'm very, very in the middle in the price.
no, you don't need to make a special price. The whole point is to give you some money. So we want to help.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll confirm it please by the WhatsApp and I will send you the piece, okay?
Okay. God bless you. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye.
She keeps, I'll make you a good price. She says, I know that's not the point. So I'll send her a WhatsApp and we will get this money transferred to Anat. And this little 100-year-old hotel of hers will at least be able to support her a little bit better than it was before you guys all got involved. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being a part of the Hot Zone. This is what the Hot Zone is all about. It's not just about making the news, but it's about making the news a little bit better for the people that we meet. So God bless you. Take care. Okay, well, SK says, I'll call and explain it to her in Hebrew. I think we finally got her, worked it out where she figured out what was going on. I actually had to go back to her a couple times, even on WhatsApp, and kind of explain to her, no, we don't want to rent your hotel. We want to give you 6,000 shekels. And so she did finally figure it out. She's not a super gregarious person to begin with. And I think she was kind of shocked when we did that because, I mean, who does that? Who does that? Have you ever heard of anybody doing that before for a small business owner who's having a hard time making it just out of the goodness of their hearts? You guys just gave that, and that was you that did that. And I'm proud of you for making the news better for that one person. One of the things that's always been frustrating for me about doing this job is that I see so much mayhem and so much hurt and so much just disaster and terrible things happening to people. And I feel like, God, I can't fix it all. Like, I just can't fix it. Like, there's just too much. I might be able to help just this person, but I can't fix it all. And I feel like God just says, you just help the ones that I put in front of you, and you let me worry about the rest of them. And so that's what we're doing here, folks. We're just taking care of the ones that God gives us. And we're going to be happy with that. And we're going to trust that God is a big God who's big enough to provide for people. He doesn't need me to do it. But he wants to use me and use you to help people around the world. And so as we can do that, we will. Okay, let's get back to the news here. The Gaza Strip, like I say, ceasefire has held. It has also been holding in the north. Yesterday, not so much. They had a couple of drones fired from Hezbollah, and the Israelis struck back and killed some more Hezbollah fighters. But the Hezbollah today has been quiet. There's not been a single alert so far on my phone here. So everything that's on here is from yesterday. And there's nothing on here from today. That is one of the first days that we've had nothing. Well, it's the first day we've had nothing on this one since I've been here. So that's pretty awesome. And that doesn't mean that nothing happened. There was this attack on this Central Park ship. It's called a ship called the Central Park. It's a cargo vessel or maybe an oil tank or something like that was taken over by, you guessed it, the Houthi rebels of Yemen. And these guys, I tell you what, they're just self-parody. I mean, it's hard to make up too many jokes about these guys because they're just such a joke by themselves. They've been unable to harm any Israelis, so now they're taking over ships that might have an Israeli owner somewhere in the mix. Most ships are not owned by one person. They're owned by a consortium of different companies because it's very risky to own a ship. And so, yeah, they're like little gnats. You're right, fearless one. Like little gnats flying around your head. They're just kind of an annoyance. But you got to feel sorry for the sailors on these ships who are not Israeli at all, have nothing to do with this conflict, and they're just trying to do their job, and they keep getting taken over and stolen by these clowns. I want to see if I've got. I thought I gave. No.
We demand that all our male and female prisoners.
Not that. I'll show you that in a second. Oh, here it is. That's a picture of the vessel. And look at these guys in these Houthis here in this, I don't know what kind of boat that is. That's one heck of a lancha. And so these are the professional soldiers who are taking over ships now. This is exactly like oh, look, they have a drone flying up there. I just noticed that in the top right corner of the screen. There's a drone flying, so they're taking video of themselves taking over these ships. How about that? But these are not like highly trained soldiers or anything. These are just a bunch of thugs that are going out and stealing ships to try to pretend that they're doing something to strike a blow against Israel. When they're really not. The Ofer family, it was a wealthy family here in Israel, had some interest in that ship apparently, and they probably, I don't know what's going to happen with those guys. So far, nobody's even bothered to strike back at Yemen. They're just like, yeah, whatever. But at some point, they're going to have to do something about this problem. They took care of that problem fairly easily when they finally got the political will to do it in Somalia. You remember a few years back, there was a lot of problems with Somalis stealing ships, piracy out in the Gulf of Aden. And they, what was an earlier video?
You being in West Virginia.
Oh, I'm not in West Virginia. I wasn't in West Virginia. That was a video that was filmed months ago, and I uploaded it today so I could show you something. People keep asking about that. So in Somalia, they had this problem where piracy was about the only growth industry in the whole country, and they kept going out in these boats, kind of like that one you just saw, kind of like this this boat here, and they would climb up ladders and take over ships and then take them to a cove somewhere north of Basaso in Somalia and would hold them for ransom. And they could get a few $1 million for a shipload of goods, and it became a big business for those guys. There were several things tried to stop that, and the only thing that really worked was allowing the ships going through the Gulf of Aden to arm themselves for the time that they're in the Gulf of Aden, because ships, merchant ships, aren't usually allowed to be armed in any way because they're entering the territorial waters of various different countries, and that would be considered an invasion if you had weapons on board. So they're normally not allowed to have weapons, but they made some special dispensation for the Gulf of Aden, and they would actually, I had a guy try to recruit me to go join one of these teams where you get on the boat. At that point, this is crazy, you were getting on the boat in Yemen from Sana'a and then riding all the way up to I don't know, somewhere in Dubai or someplace and getting off. But that was the only way that they stopped those pirates from taking over the ships was allowing you to shoot the pirates. And so they started sinking all those Puntland pirates, and that sort of solved the problem. So it would be nice to, that may be what has to happen here, but for these guys, these ships that they've already got, at some point, somebody's going to have to either negotiate or shoot to get them, get those released. But they have nothing to do with this war, and it's just Yemen trying to be relevant. It's just kind of crazy that they're doing that. Okay. Also, I'm told that in Gaza, the Maroon Special Operations Brigade has discovered roughly 50 booby-trapped explosive devices and dozens of weapon stockpiles, and they are helping to try to locate more Israeli hostages. They said that in the last couple of weeks, 4 working dogs, I said 7 on the last live, but it was 4. 4 working dogs who fought alongside the IDF have been killed in action so far. And that's just a real shame. I like dogs more than most people, and I really hate to see dogs get hurt, but they are dogs after all, and it'd be better than having people killed. So, but those dogs are heroes, and I think they will be treated as such. It says they're going to be buried in the military cemetery alongside their counterparts from the human race. Also, right before the ceasefire started, the IDF has announced that they killed like 5 senior commanders of Hamas. It's a very dangerous, you have a very short life expectancy if you're a Hamas commander these days. And today, in compliance with the ceasefire agreement, the IDF allowed an increased quantity of food into the Gaza Strip. They tried to take some of that to northern Gaza and were apparently stopped by a Hamas checkpoint before they even got to the IDF checkpoint. What about the IDF, the Somali pilots that didn't ever use toilet paper before? Look, I've been to Somalia a couple times, and it's a failed state. There's no government to speak of. And the people in Somalia, unfortunately, are growing up in a country where there is no rule of law and there is precious little in terms of civilization. There, people just do what they want to do, and it's might makes right. So that is kind of how it has become in Yemen nowadays. Because when the Houthi rebels took over, it's essentially a failed state now. They took over the capital, Sana'a. But I don't know what happens if you try to travel to Yemen, if they stamp your passport with a Houthi stamp or a Yemen stamp. I'm not sure. But bottom line is, a lot of those young men, young Somali men, could make lots of money by kidnapping people either on land or at sea. They told us when I was there, they said, look, kidnapping is the only thing you have to worry about here, but in reality, you're not going to get kidnapped, you're going to get killed. Because if they see you, they will, like when you're out driving around, if they see that you're an American, you will get torn limb from limb as they fight over who gets to kidnap you. And so you're not going to survive long enough to get kidnapped. You'll just get ripped apart. And so we went out into we were making a 30th anniversary documentary about the Black Hawk Down incident. And we had some of the veterans of that conflict with us. And the security team that we hired had to go out and hire 2 different tribes of just militiamen to guard us and guard us from each other. If you only hire one tribe, they will guard you and keep you safe until you get ready to leave, and then they will kidnap you and get more money out of you. So you have to hire 2 of them so that they'll keep each other honest. And they just took us out one day into the Bakara market, which is where Black Hawk Down happened. And they said, if you get, like we've got very dark windows on the vehicles, but if somebody sees that you're an American, they will, tear this vehicle apart to get to you. So we are not going to stop when we drive through the Bakara market. We're going to drive through there. You can film from the vehicle out the windows, and that's it. And as it turned out, that wasn't quite that easy, and it got pretty worrisome there for a little while. That was not a safe place to be.
Several people have asked about the narrative of Hamas handling the folks gently.
So the narrative of whether or not Hamas handled the folks gently or not, well, first of all, I would, you sort of have to caveat that by saying that kidnapping people is not a gentle thing, even if you're nice about it. Kidnapping people is violence in and of itself. Holding people against their will is violence in and of itself, because they weren't torturing you. The being kidnapped and being held in a cave underground and not knowing if you're going to see the light of day ever again is enough torture by itself. Now, I said this yesterday and the day before, I think too. Those hostages are super valuable. And so they have a vested interest in keeping them alive and keeping them in good shape. So they're not going to be purposefully, punching them and torturing them and hurting them and stuff, unless there's some profit to that. They killed the people they were going to kill when they went in on October 7th, and then they took the hostages that they could take, and that was part of their plan. But those hostages need to be kept in decent shape. Otherwise, they're not worth as much. And if they die on you, then they're not worth anything. So I'm not surprised that the hostages that are being released, especially the women and children, are in halfway decent condition. They say that they weren't fed real well. I wouldn't expect that they could have been fed real well because there's not a lot of food in Gaza. But other than that, they not too much worse for wear. I mean, they've been underground for 40, 50 days. That's not super healthy, but you can survive that. Now, whether or not that is going to hold for the men who have been kidnapped, that may very likely be held for much, much longer. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see how valuable they actually are. Okay? Somebody has a question about Newsmax published an article in March 2023 about a proposal where Christians in Israel would be going to prison for talking about Jesus by their legislators. I'm not familiar with that. Sorry. Can't answer that question. Lauren, you're a journalist hoping to work in hot zones one day in college at the University of Oklahoma. Well, God bless you, Lauren. And I would say one thing you want to do is you want to get capable, if not very, very good, at all aspects of production, not just one or two. Don't just think you're going to be the pretty face in front of the camera. You need to learn to edit. You need to learn to write. You need to learn to research. You need to learn to travel and produce. That's traveling as part of production. You need to learn to do all of it, and that every bit of that you can do yourself increases your value to a prospective employer. Although I never planned to do this, I just have picked up all this stuff along the way over the last 20 plus years.
Mavis asks, what are the IDF soldiers doing during the ceasefire?
The IDF soldiers are in place, or they're stopped in place. They're probably sleeping a lot. Being in the military is about 90% crushing boredom and 10% sheer terror. And that's, I'm sure, holding true in Gaza for these guys right now. They are standing watch. It's dangerous for them to be in there because anytime they pop up or move around, they could get shot by a sniper. And they know that. And so they are probably staying in their vehicles, resting, rearming, repairing anything that needs repaired, cleaning things that need repaired. Lottie said the IDF is not sleeping at all, really. So they've been in there since October 17th and they haven't slept at all. That would be interesting, and also a world record. So believe me, I was a soldier, and I'm telling you, if they're not fighting, they're resting, cleaning, training, or refitting and preparing to go back in. Right now, they may very likely be getting some much needed rest. I'm not saying everybody laid down and went to sleep. Of course not. Right?
Oh, that you were just told you were wrong. They're not sleeping.
That's what I said. I saw that. Yeah, Lottie said IDF not sleeping at all. Yeah, well, that's a strong statement, Lottie. I'd like to see you back that one up. The corporate body of the IDF is not resting, but they're taking shifts. I'm not sure what you mean by the corporate body. Of course, the IDF is not fighting right now. And so if they're not fighting, they are resting, refitting, repairing, cleaning, and preparing their next steps. They're preparing for the next thing they're going to do. Okay? Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, Lottie. I only spent 8 years in the Army, and 4 of those as an infantryman. So, and the last 20 covering the military. But maybe you're right. Okay, so I'm not in West Virginia. I am in Jerusalem. I just am inside because it's freezing outside and it's 10 o'clock at night. And I don't want to set up my lights and wake up my neighbors who are right across the way, a bunch of Israeli IDFs. Rangers lead the way, Glenn. Absolutely, all the way. Okay, so let's see if there's any more questions real quick. And in the meantime, I'm going to continue on with my notes here. Hezbollah said they would comply with the ceasefire. This is before the ceasefire happened. But yesterday, they didn't. There was a surface-to-air missile launched from Lebanon, and there was a drone launched as well. Both of those were taken out of the sky by the IDF with no damage. In Yemen, they now have the oil chemical taker called the Central Park. They have, that was taken just today. They have an Israeli, the Galaxy Leader, which is a cargo ship that they took over about a week ago. And they struck a ship in the Indian Ocean that it was an Israeli-owned cargo ship called the Simi. But again, other than the slight damage to the ship, there were no injuries, and now there's 2 ships in port somewhere being held off the coast of Yemen, and a bunch of confused sailors wondering why they're being punished for what's happening in Israel. So that is about it for the update today, folks. Is there any other if you have any other questions, let's put them up now. And let's see, I thought I had, one other thing I wanted to talk about. That is the reaction from the Palestinian quarter as they have released something like 70-ish hostages, and those more tonight, another 30, so we're probably over 100 hostages, prisoners. These are Palestinians who were committed crimes in Israel, and they've been in prison. The Israelis hold 7,200 prisoners from the West Bank, is what I'm told. And about 2,000 of those have been arrested since October 7th. 2,000 people they've arrested since October 7th. So obviously Israel is cracking down, and there are plenty of things to crack down on, because they're getting, even last night, as they were preparing to release the hostages from the prison, which is in the West Bank, there were Palestinians attacking around the prison with rocks and stuff, throwing rocks, and 3 military-age males were shot by the IDF. That was reported on CNN yesterday, for apparently throwing rocks, and were then treated by the IDF. They were shot, and then they were carried off to the hospital and treated. But I want you to see something here. These guys are being released after years, months or years in prison. The media still insists on calling them children. They're not children, okay? I joined the Army when I was 17. I went from basic training straight to airborne school. I turned 18 in basic training. After airborne school, I went straight to the Ranger Indoctrination Program, and which is a selection process for the Rangers, and became an Army Ranger. So I was a young 18 years old, and I was already an Army Ranger. I saw combat at 19. At 19 years old, I was also a jump master. I was in charge of a $64 million aircraft and 100 troops. These are not children. These guys are 17 and up, okay, that are being released. They may have been released, they may have been arrested when they were younger teenagers, like 13, 14, 15. But if they're literally stabbing Jews, what are you supposed to do with them? You know? People are, the media narrative of this is so frustrating, because you can, all it's telling you is just how in the tank most of these journalists are for Hamas. It's not telling you the truth about what's happening on the ground. It's telling you how much they love the Palestinian cause and Hamas. So they are writing that Israel is releasing women and children. These children they're talking about are all over 17 years old. These are men, okay? These are military-age males. And so I want you to see this, because this is what the father of one of these guys had to say after his son was released. Okay, listen to this.
I feel happy, but this joy is intertwined with the blood of martyrs and the suffering of children and the elderly. We as a people sacrifice what is precious and valuable for the sake of our beloved country and the liberation of Jerusalem. God willing, victory is imminent. God willing.
Sorry, I forgot to turn my mic back on. Thank you. I do that every
It
time.
did go
This
quiet,
thing,
but I thought it was the video.
this thing is making me crazy. You didn't hear it?
Can't hear it.
Can you hear it now?
No. There we go.
Okay. Yeah, there's a delay there, folks. This program I'm using, I have to shut my mic off so you can hear the audio of the video, and then it takes a minute apparently for the audio to come back, and part of that's because I'm too stupid to see it that went off. Here's one more video of a Palestinian in the West Bank who was asked what he thinks about this hostage release exchange that they've made. I want you to listen to what he has to say. Okay, I translated it and dubbed it for you. So here it is with my English dub.
We demand that all our male and female prisoners be released from the occupation prisons, and that no prisoner remain in prison, not just those who have been released now. We also demand that the occupation end as soon as possible. Tonight, the occupation committed a catastrophe in Jenin. There are dead and wounded, and every night the army storms Jenin, Nablus, Kalkilia, and many others from the cities of the West Bank, where he kills and demolishes, and no one stops.
Okay, so that kind of says it all. I have been all over the place since I got here to Israel on the 10th of October. I've talked to lots of Jews. I've talked to lots of Arabs, probably more Arabs than Jews, actually, because, you know, if I go out and go shopping or go to the mall or go to the old city, the only merchants really that are down there anymore are the Arabs, because everybody else is serving in the military. And I have tried to engage these guys and say, what do you think about what happened on October 7th? And I have yet to find a single one, not one, who will denounce the fact that Hamas butchered babies. I can't find anybody that says they're horrified by the fact that Hamas took little children as hostages. They just either say, oh, well, we don't really know what happened. Or they say more like what that guy had to say. Isn't that amazing? I mean, these are the innocent civilians who are being killed in Gaza in bombings, okay? When they say innocent civilians got killed, this is the innocent civilians that we're talking about. These are not people who are wringing their hands and they're just horrified by what Hamas is doing. They are supporting Hamas. And it's really sad, because it makes you wonder, like, how does this thing ever end? What's going on out there? Did you hear that?
What?
That was,
That's nobody.
it sounds like an alarm going off outside. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty sad stuff. That father just got his son back, and all he can talk about is the jihad. They are marching. There were some Palestinians that were killed in an airstrike in the West Bank by the IDF the other day. Now, Israel is not randomly bombing the West Bank. If they drop a bomb on somebody, it's because they needed to have a bomb dropped on them. And somebody's saying they can't hear me.
No, that's old.
Okay. And so there were a couple people killed by this airstrike that happened in the West Bank. They're probably Hamas commanders or somebody like that. And they had their funeral today. There were thousands of people there marching around in the West Bank. I think it's in Jenin where this took place. And I was trying to get the video for it, but I didn't have time to get it in. But they were marching and chanting that, you know, we are on jihad, that this is a jihad. They're calling for jihad. They're calling for another October 7th. They're calling for more Israelis to be murdered. And so this war is not over in any way, shape, or form. And it's not going to be over when they stop giving up hostages, because Israel has to continue this fight until the Palestinians get the message. And they will only get the message with overwhelming force brought against them, unfortunately. So, hey, that's what these are. These are slippery elm lozenges right here. They were given to me by an absolutely great guy who might be listening right now, Jan Bob, at the Alert Academy. And they do help. Unfortunately, I'm making about 2.5 hours of television every day, and it's hard on the throat. So it is what it is. Thanks for putting up with me, people. I certainly appreciate it, and thank you for being generous to Anat. And if you want to find out more about her, I think Connie put up the name of her hotel. It's the Alliance Villa or something like that. Anyway, the name of the hotel. And so you can look it up and go, donate directly by just renting a room on Airbnb from her. We can find the link and put it in the comments of this video later on, if you like. But
If it's too long, it won't fit.
no, I can shorten it. Okay. You can do shorten link. We'll have to make a bit.ly. There's supposed to be one more group of prisoners that will be released tomorrow. I am 54, not 48, but there is that today will probably be the only day that we have Americans released, and we just had that one American. What's her little name? Sweet little girl, little 4-year-old. Abigail.
Is it Abigail?
Abigail, that's it. Yeah, Abigail. Released. So that may be the only. Are there tunnels in the West Bank also? That's a good question, Rachel. Probably. There probably are, but not to the extent that there were in Gaza. Gaza was being overseen by Hamas. The West Bank is overseen by the Palestinian Authority. They are cousins, sort of, but the Palestinian Authority has been more concerned with spending its money on trying to take over land throughout the West Bank. So the West Bank is divided up into 3 zones: A zone, B zone, C zone. A zone is for Arabs, B zone is transit for both of them, C zone is anybody's, not just Israelis, anybody's, but it's administered by Israel. The Arabs are trying to build, because they're trying to just take over all the land they can in there, and so they're getting literally over $1 billion a year given to them by countries, governments outside of Israel. And they're taking that $1 billion a year and using it to build empty houses all over the West Bank. We're going to probably go up there tomorrow. So I'll probably do my live tomorrow from the West Bank and let you see what I'm talking about. I showed that the last time I was up there, and it's crazy. It's crazy. Those guys are building empty buildings all over the place just to occupy the land. They don't get building permits. They're not building it legally when they're on the sea, in the C zones. And they're just doing it. They're building something there so that the Jews can. It's like a race. And it's pretty crazy. So we'll talk about the West Bank more tomorrow because I'll probably be coming to you from the West Bank tomorrow. No, I'm not back in the U.S. I know that's confusing. Let's see. I'm just. Our church has a trip to Israel scheduled in 2024. I think that should be able to go forward. I might run a trip to Israel in 2024 if my wife will let me, because I've had a lot of people asking me to run a tour over here. And so far, we've been kicking around the idea anyway. Biden keeps mentioning a 2-state solution. Are the Israeli people starting to change their opinion of America and its leadership? Weird, liberty or death, but all of the Israelis I've talked to, with a few exceptions, are very positive toward Joe Biden. They say, Joe Biden's great. They find out I'm American, and that's the first thing they want to tell me. Oh, we love Joe Biden. And I'm like, why? Why do you love Joe Biden? He's pushing you to do all the wrong things. But it's because they get a lot of support from America, and they, Joe Biden is America to them. So they don't understand all the politics. They just understand they like America, and yeah, they just want to say they like America, and so they say they like Joe Biden. If I go up to the West Bank, I will be with the Israel guys, paratrooper. That's who I'm going to visit, and the Waller family up there with Hayovel. I want to take my wife up there to see them. I think she'll like them a lot. What's happening right now with Hezbollah? Not much. Yesterday, Hezbollah lost a few more fighters to IDF strikes because they were shooting into Israel. But today has been very quiet from up there, which is great.
They were wondering about the men hanging from the wall.
Did they see? If you saw the video of the guys hanging from the walls, there were 3 guys in the West Bank who were suspected of commiserating with the Israelis somehow. And they were not tried by a jury of their peers or anything like that. They were just yanked out of their cars and beaten to death in the street by a mob and then hung up on a wall so that people could come up and take selfies with their bodies. This is the level of civilization that you see in that community. And that probably explains almost all you need to know about why we're in this situation. Okay? Explain more, Pam said. I just missed that. Did I hear about the terrorist threat on Somalia in Judea? I don't understand the question. Somalia and Judea, I don't understand that. Are Gazans allowed to live in the West Bank? Theoretically, they are, the Gazans are Palestinian, and the Palestinians are also in the West Bank. So if they could, I suppose Israel could send them all to the West Bank and bus them all over there. But that would be a really bad idea because there's no fence to keep them out of the settlements up there, or of the rest of Israel for that matter. And they would very likely have a huge attack and have even more killed than they had on October 7th. Yeah, everybody keeps telling me all these things to try for my voice. The problem with my voice is I need surgery. I've got damaged vocal cords, and I'm going to have to get surgery at some point. But that would require taking 6 weeks off and not speaking, and that'd be kind of hard for me to do. So I'm just sucking it up as the best I can. The wars don't stop. Is Somalia and Judea? They spent all night trying to defend themselves. Ellie, you're saying Somalia. Somalia is a country in Africa. And so I'm not sure. I think maybe you're trying to say Samaria and Judea. Judea and Samaria. They spent all night trying to defend themselves. If you're saying Samaria and Judea, then I do know what you're talking about. And yes, there are 500,000 Jewish settlers, and I don't even like to use the term settlers, but that's what the world calls them. There are settlements or villages of Jewish people in the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. The West Bank is what the world calls it. Judea and Samaria is what the Bible calls it. But whatever you want to call it, there are plenty of Israelis living there, and they are living there legally. The media likes to say that they are there illegally under international law, but that would be like the UN saying that you having a deer rifle is illegal under UN law, because the UN passed a law that you couldn't have guns. But you can legally have a gun in your own country. You're not breaking the laws of your country, And so if they want to say that you're breaking international law by having a deer rifle, we'll tell them to go get lost. That's, who cares what the world body thinks? They are very legal in Judea and Samaria for these Jewish people to live there. They get building permits, and they do everything by the book. So there has been some fighting between them and their neighbors because there's no fences. You'll see when I get up there, it's that like Hayovel up there on the Mount of Blessing. All they have is some some vineyards between them and their Arab neighbors. And there are some Israeli soldiers up there, but not very many. And they're surrounded by a couple million Palestinians. So if the Palestinians decided to go hard and go kinetic against the Jews and Israelis who are living in Judea and Samaria, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be ugly. And so we'll talk about that some more tomorrow, and I'll get one of the Waller brothers on with me to talk about it if I can. So thank you for coming on. And let's go ahead and leave it at that. And say, my wife says I have to pray. I don't usually pray on mine, but since my wife tells me I have to, I will. I pray on the CBN ones when I leave. Not that I mind praying at all. I don't mind one bit. I'm very happy to pray. Today's been a very, very tough day, so I probably need to pray a little extra. So let's do that. Lord Jesus, thank you so much for just watching over me and my family while we've been here and doing this work. We thank you for all the people who have been so incredibly encouraging by watching the lives that I put out and by donating to help people and by sending me emails to encourage me. They are so appreciated, Father, and I just am grateful for them and for you bringing them to my channel. Lord, I pray for all the people who are hurting tonight in the West Bank and in Gaza and in Israel. There is so much hurt around here, so much hate, and I just pray that you would turn it into love, that your spirit would move, and that there would be just an absolute revival, a revival of your spirit among these people, that they would see signs and visions, and that they would just come to cry out to you in their distress, Lord, and you would be there and be very real to them when they have nothing else to fall back on. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and I'll be on again tomorrow. So stay tuned. We'll see you.